At exactly 2:14 GMT, military satellites passing over Eastern Europe detected another wave of long-range drones moving toward Western Russia. Just hours later, radar stations in the Persian Gulf began tracking Iranian missile deployments near the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, thousands of kilometers away, Chinese naval forces expanded combat exercises around Taiwan, while North Korean missile units prepared yet another launch from the Korean Peninsula. Individually, these crises already threaten regional stability, but together, they reveal something far more dangerous. For the first time in decades, multiple global flashpoints are beginning to overlap strategically, economically, technologically, and militarily at the same time. And defense analysts across the world are now warning about a terrifying possibility. The world may be entering a new era of interconnected conflict, unlike anything seen since the Cold War. Because today's wars no longer remain isolated. Every battlefield now affects another. Every escalation sends shockwaves through global alliances, energy markets, supply chains, cyber networks, military planning, and geopolitical strategy simultaneously. And the result is a planet drifting toward continuous high-intensity instability. To understand why this moment is so dangerous, you need to understand how dramatically warfare itself has changed over the last decade. Historically, major conflicts were often geographically contained. A war in one region did not automatically reshape military posture everywhere else. That is no longer true. Today, a drone strike in Ukraine changes NATO air defense doctrine in Europe. A naval confrontation in the Red Sea impacts shipping costs across Asia. Chinese military exercises near Taiwan alter U.S. submarine deployments in the Pacific. And cyber attacks launched in the Middle East can disrupt infrastructure thousands of miles away within seconds. Modern conflict has become globally interconnected. And right now, several of the world's most dangerous theaters are escalating simultaneously. The first major front remains Ukraine. More than 4 years into the war, the Russia-Ukraine conflict has transformed into the world's largest real-time laboratory for modern warfare. Drone swarms, electronic warfare, satellite targeting, AI-assisted reconnaissance, long-range precision strikes, autonomous systems. The technologies being tested there are already reshaping military doctrine worldwide. NATO is studying every engagement. China is studying every engagement. Iran is studying every engagement. And so is North Korea. Because Ukraine is no longer just a regional war. It has become a blueprint for future conflict. At the same time, the Middle East is becoming increasingly unstable. Tensions involving Iran, Israel, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and American naval forces continue escalating across multiple fronts simultaneously. Missile attacks, proxy warfare, maritime disruption, drone strikes, cyber operations, and covert assassinations are all occurring inside the same strategic environment. And one location matters more than all others: the Strait of Hormuz. Nearly a fifth of the world's oil supply passes through that narrow corridor every single day. If conflict there escalates significantly, global energy markets could spiral instantly. Fuel prices, shipping insurance, inflation, financial stability, everything becomes vulnerable, which means a regional military clash could rapidly become a worldwide economic crisis. And then there is Taiwan, perhaps the single most dangerous geopolitical flashpoint on Earth. China's military modernization over the last decade has fundamentally altered the balance of power in the Pacific. Massive naval expansion, hypersonic missile development, anti-satellite capability, cyber warfare, AI integration, long-range strike systems. Beijing is building the capability not only to pressure Taiwan, but to challenge American military dominance across the Indo-Pacific itself. And every new Chinese exercise around Taiwan reveals another terrifying reality. The line between military drill and real blockade is becoming increasingly difficult to distinguish. That ambiguity matters enormously, because future wars may not begin with formal declarations. They may begin gradually. A blockade exercise that becomes permanent, cyber attacks that escalate quietly, electronic warfare disrupting communications, autonomous drones appearing over strategic infrastructure. The opening stages of future conflicts may look confusing rather than explosive, and confusion creates miscalculation. Meanwhile, North Korea continues accelerating missile and nuclear development at remarkable speed. hypersonic glide vehicles, solid-fuel ICBMs, submarine-launched ballistic missiles, tactical nuclear doctrine. Every launch forces the United States, Japan, and South Korea into higher readiness cycles, and those cycles create pressure. More military, patrols, more radar activity, more exercises, more aircraft operating dangerously close together. The probability of accidental escalation rises constantly. But perhaps the most important transformation of all is technological, because the next era of conflict may not be dominated by tanks or aircraft carriers alone. It may be dominated by autonomous systems and invisible warfare. Artificial intelligence is now entering military command structures. Drone swarms are becoming cheaper and more lethal. Electronic warfare can blind advanced sensors. Cyberattacks can disrupt entire economies. Satellites can be targeted in orbit. Deepfake propaganda spreads instantly across social media ecosystems during crises. The battlefield is expanding into every domain simultaneously: land, sea, air, cyber, space, information. And unlike previous eras, civilian infrastructure is now deeply connected to military vulnerability. Power grids, financial systems, shipping networks, telecommunications, GPS, infrastructure, cloud computing, undersea internet cables. Modern societies depend on interconnected systems that can all become targets during geopolitical escalation. This is why military strategists increasingly fear cascade scenarios. One regional conflict triggers economic disruption elsewhere. That disruption triggers political instability. Political instability increases military pressure in another region. Another escalation follows. Then alliances activate. Markets panic. Cyberattacks intensify. And suddenly multiple crises begin feeding each other simultaneously. This is exactly how global instability compounds. At the same time, alliances themselves are transforming. NATO is expanding military production and forward deployments across Europe. The United States is restructuring force posture in the Pacific. China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea are increasingly cooperating diplomatically and technologically against Western pressure. A new geopolitical alignment is slowly emerging. Not necessarily a formal alliance structure like the Cold War, but a shared strategic convergence against the current Western-led international system. And that makes every regional crisis more dangerous than before, because adversaries are now watching multiple theaters simultaneously. If the United States concentrates resources in Europe, China studies the Pacific balance. If Washington shifts naval assets toward the Middle East, Russia observes NATO posture elsewhere. Every SAT deployment now affects calculations globally. The world's major powers are becoming strategically interconnected through constant competition. And there is another terrifying factor driving all of this: economic pressure, global debt instability, inflation, energy insecurity, supply chain disruption, food prices, resource competition, rare earth minerals, semiconductor manufacturing, strategic shipping routes. Modern geopolitics is increasingly tied directly to economic survival, which means military confrontation and economic warfare are becoming inseparable. Sanctions, trade restrictions, technology bans, currency pressure, cyber sabotage, infrastructure targeting. These are now core weapons of geopolitical competition. And unlike previous eras, information spreads instantly. Every missile launch appears online within minutes. Every naval movement is tracked by satellites. Every escalation triggers global media panic in real time. Public pressure on governments rises faster than diplomacy can react. This compresses decision-making windows dramatically, and compressed decision windows are dangerous during military crises, especially when nuclear powers are involved. Tonight, American carrier groups patrol the Pacific and the Persian Gulf simultaneously. Russian missile forces remain on alert. Chinese naval fleets continue operating near Taiwan. NATO expands drone defense networks across Europe, while cyber units from multiple nations fight invisible battles every hour of every day. The world is not in total war. Not yet. But it is entering something increasingly unstable. A permanent state of interconnected confrontation, where crises overlap, where technologies accelerate escalation, where economic warfare merges with military pressure. and where multiple flashpoints can suddenly collide into something far larger than any single conflict alone. Because the greatest danger of the modern era may not be one war by itself. It may be several wars connecting together at the same time. And tonight, that possibility no longer feels theoretical. It feels closer than ever before.